to everybody, please.
Okay, everybody wave.
Hi, everybody. So glad to be invited to see her.
Now you probably should put
work.
numbers down or stuff.
Byron, can you wave? Oh, Rod's waving. I'm sorry, Rod.
All right. Hi, I'm Adria Allen, and this is my informative speech titled The Evolution of Sign Language. Can you guess what the third most used language is in the United States? German, French, maybe Mandarin? The correct answer is American Sign Language. Although many people use ASL, there's still a lot of confusion about the language. American Sign Language is a language completely different from English, using different syntax and grammar forms. ASL is one of over 300 types of sign language. Merriam-Webster defines sign language as any of various formal language employing a system of hand gestures and their placement relative to the upper body, facial expressions, body postures, and finger spelling, especially for communication by and with deaf people. In pursuing a career as a speech and language pathologist, I have had some exposure to sign language and the evolution of it, but I wanted to learn some more, so I did some research. I found that American Sign Language is a complex language that had a unique beginning, faced a lot of difficulties, and today is one of the top languages in the United States. The development of American Sign Language was unique compared to other languages. In the early 1800s, there were only a few thousand deaf Americans, and they communicated with various types of signing methods. Deaf Americans would mix different symbols from various methods, and this formed what is known as a language pidgin, which according to the website Start ASL is now known as Old American Sign. In 1814, a minister named Dr. Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet noticed that his neighbor's deaf daughter, Alice Cogswell, was smart, despite not being able to hear or speak. Gallaudet tried to help her education, having some success teaching her how to spell and read, but he knew he would have to leave Hartford, Connecticut to learn better techniques for teaching deaf students. Gallaudet raised money in his community, then traveled to France's National Institute for Deaf and Mutes. He studied under the renowned deaf educators Abby Sicard, Jean Mazau, and Laurent Clerc for a year. When Gallaudet was coming back to the United States, he asked Clerc to come back with him to start a deaf school in Connecticut, and Clerc said yes. Together, they opened the American School for the Deaf in 1817. This was the first public deaf school in the United States and opened with 7 students. Soon, students came from all over the United States. Originally, they taught French Sign Language, but quickly used it instead as a model to create American Sign Language. By 1863, 22 deaf schools had been formed, mostly by students of the American School for the Deaf. This helped to set one sign language for all of deaf people in America. In 1864, Edward Gallaudet achieved his late father's goal of opening a deaf college, Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. The college was made possible thanks to President Abraham Lincoln, who signed the act allowing the school. It is still the only higher education institute designed for deaf and hard of hearing students in the world. Although there were huge achievements in the formation of the American Sign Language in deaf education, they quickly faced tremendous setbacks. In the late 1800s, American Sign Language was nearly destroyed. In 1880, the Second International Congress on the Education of the Deaf met at the Milan Conference. The convention was mostly attended by oralists, those who believed that deaf individuals should be taught to communicate through speech or lip reading instead of sign. According to Harvard's Deaf History Timeline, Alexander Graham Bell, the inventor of the telephone, was the head of the oralism movement. Bell was given 3 days to speak at the convention, whereas sign language advocates were only given 3 hours to present. At this conference, they decided that oral education was better than sign education and banned sign language in deaf schools. The United States and Britain were the only two countries who opposed the ban, but their opposition was ignored and they also banned sign language. The thought of the convention was articulation would better integrate deaf and mute people into society. The convention also thought that signing while articulating would distract non-signing people, leading to more confusion versus disarticulation. There were many results in the deaf community, according to the website verywellhealth.com, including deaf teachers losing their jobs, a decline in deaf professionals, and the declining success of deaf education. Gallaudet University made the executive decision to keep using American Sign Language on campus. This decision is what helped preserve the language, while other forms of sign language were being forgotten, such as the oldest form of sign language, Martha's Vineyard Sign Language, which was erased when the last user died in 1952. Linguist professor at Gallaudet University, William Stoke, declared American Sign Language as an official language in 1970. And this, along with pressure from pro-signing organizations, such as the National Association of the Deaf, is what led to educators in the United States to again use American Sign Language. American Sign Language is now widely accepted, but still faces many challenges in today's society. Today, the deaf education in the United States has greatly improved due to legislation passed in 1975 that required disabled children to have free and appropriate public education. This was the beginning of mainstream deaf education in the United States. According to the Communication Service for the Deaf website, 1 million people consider ASL as their primary language. The popularity of ASL is also growing for hearing people, as it is now often offered in high schools and in colleges. The biggest challenge to American Sign Language users is that they are exposed to ASL later than what is encouraged for normal language development. One reason for this is 9 out of 10 deaf children are born into hearing families who don't know ASL. This often leads to the oralist approach, which can be seen in the statistic that only 28% of families communicate with their deaf children through sign. In conclusion, my research found that American Sign Language is a diverse language that had a unique beginning, faced a lot of setbacks, and today is one of the top languages in the United States, but still has some issues. I hope you all have learned more about the evolution of sign language. Thank you for listening, and if anyone has any questions, I will try to answer them. All right, now show everybody again, please. Just quick.
That was very quick. That was very good.
Thank you.
Very, very good.